Welcome, everybody. Thanks so much for taking the time to watch this. Really excited to share with you Rural Opportunity Institute's Biofeedback Breathing Program, a simple intervention technique that's been around for many decades and is very evidence-backed, incredibly safe. Excited to share with you just a brief overview about what biofeedback breathing is, a little bit about how and why it works, and any next steps you can take if you're interested in creating your own pilot program, either for yourself, for your coworkers and the staff that you work with, or for the people that you serve in your organization. So we'll jump right in. So Rural Opportunity Institute works to shift the narrative of the urban and rural divide, especially around technology and innovation. Often the innovation process leaves out rural communities like our own. We are located in Edgecombe County in Tarboro, about an hour and a half east of Raleigh in rural eastern North Carolina. Really grateful to get to live and work here. It's an incredible community with a deep history of resilience and of fighting for justice. Edgecombe County was the home to the first town in America founded by freed Black slaves after the Civil War, Princeville. And Edgecombe County is also home to the first location that Dr. Martin Luther King ever came to give his I Have a Dream speech before he took it to the March on Washington. Just there's an immense history to learn from here and throughout rural communities everywhere. Our core values at ROI: we practice equity through listening. We work to build inclusion by listening to people who are most impacted and working with them to create solutions. We invest in people through training, advocacy, relationship building, and access to tool and resources. And we have a core value of knowing that people are not to blame for the trauma and stress that impacts them, that trauma is caused by unjust systems and different inequities that are structural and that manifests in really acute types of trauma that we might see in individual people's lives. We know that resilience is an inner strength in all humans, regardless of background. And our mission at ROI is to support people's healing from adversity through education, reshaping systemic practices, and fostering deep-rooted connections in Eastern North Carolina. And one thing that's core to our work is being able to share what's working. So biofeedback breathing is a program that we've been using locally and seeing good results. So that's why we wanted to package this and share this with you and communities anywhere across the country and world so that you can use this solution in your own context. ROI is governed by a community board. It's made up of residents from our community who we meet with monthly, who hold us as an organization accountable. They set the vision specifically around our training and awareness building work. And so we're really grateful to all of our community board members for their service. So let's start with digging into the challenge of adverse childhood experiences. And before we jump into digging into the original study and some of the more science and data-based information, we just want to give you a chance to pause, maybe relax your shoulders a little bit, settle into your body, and just remember your why. What gets you out of bed in the morning? Why do you do what you do? What is the vision of a future world that you are working to see? And for us, one of our whys and one of the things that gets us out of bed in the morning is wondering how might we create more supportive and healing environments. A lot of the work we've done locally, community members have named that we are a deeply punitive society. And when people are struggling, we meet that struggle with punishment and isolation rather than restoration and skill building. Often when people are experiencing trauma, have an overload of stress in their body, their body chooses a automatic response such as aggression, violence, different things like that. And we pervasively respond to these situations with punishment and isolation. And this leads to people being criminalized and excluded from the very safe environments or supportive services that would help them heal. So that's one of ROI's why, and just want to give you a second to reflect on your own why. So the solution we're sharing with you today is called biofeedback. It's a practice that's been around for many decades, and it's something that organizations can adopt as a means to be more supportive to their clients, whether that's their staff or the people they serve, to support healthy stress management. And where this kind of work for us comes from is it's rooted in the Adverse Childhood Experiences Study, or ACE study. And in the early 1990s, there was a doctor, Vincent Folletti, and he lived and worked in Southern California and worked in a obesity weight loss clinic, actually ran the clinic in San Diego. And he was getting great success. It was a residential program. People would move there, have intense changes in diet, intense changes in the amount of exercise they were doing. And they would see a big decrease in the amount of weight they lost. One participant here, they went from over 400 pounds to down to 132 pounds in about a year. And this clinic, and Dr. Folletti was getting all this accolades and awards and recognition. But he was a pretty obsessive guy. And the program wasn't working for about half the people who enrolled in it. Some would kind of mysteriously drop out as the program would go on, or they would be successful in the residential facility, but when they got back home, they would regain the weight faster than they lost it. And Dr. Folletti, like I mentioned, kind of obsessive guy, he was really trying to understand, why is this not working for half the people who are coming here? He started tracking people down who had dropped out. It was something like the 80th or 90th person that he was able to interview. So a woman said to him, "I don't think this is connected to anything you're asking me about. But when I was 10, I was sexually assaulted and raped by a family member." And he started to hear many stories of childhood sexual assault or abuse or rape. And he would hear the manifestations of that abuse later when people would tell stories of eating being a stress or anxiety relieving behavior. People would also tell stories of going to the clinic, losing a lot of weight, going back into the work environment, and maybe a male colleague to a female colleague says something like, "Oh my gosh, you look so great." Their intent was to be supportive. They weren't trying to be suggestive or inappropriate. And that triggers a lack of safety for the program participant. And one of the quotes that someone told Dr. Folletti is, "Overweight and overlooked is how I need to be for my own self-protection." And actually that was a form of self-protection from a childhood trauma and abuse. And it was saying, my body was saying, I'm going to be in control of my body. So pretty deep roots. Dr. Folletti took his information public. Again, it was the early 90s, long before the Me Too movement. He was criticized, discredited. The women were discredited in his program. And it was Dr. Anda in Atlanta at the Center for Disease Control who got in touch with him and said, "You know what, I've seen this exact same thing. I believe you fully and believe the people in your program, but the world at large isn't going to believe us unless we do a large-scale public health study." So they did one of the biggest studies in the history of public health. They got 17,000 people to turn over their history, their lifetime records from the health insurance, every reason they've ever gone to the doctor, every ailment they've ever had. And then these 17,000 people filled out surveys about the different types of stressful and traumatic events that they faced in their early years. And this was really the origins of this study. And what it found was that these ACEs, or these traumatic events, are incredibly common. Almost 3 in every 4 people in the original study had directly experienced an ACE. And it's been replicated many times across many cultures, and the findings are very consistent. And the original study falls into categories of abuse, neglect, or challenges in the home. And the way it works is pretty simple. If none of these events have happened to you, your ACE score is 0. If 4 of these events happen to you between birth and age 18, your ACE score is 4. If 9 of these events have happened to you, your ACE score is 9. So these 9 events were abuse that could be physical, emotional, or sexual, neglect that could be physical or emotional, and then challenges in the home that could be growing up with an adult who suffers mental illness, seeing divorce, seeing incarceration of a relative, seeing substance abuse in the home. So these are the things that the study found most common. And what was really striking, this study showed a dose-rate relationship, meaning directly correlated. You can see this graph. The more trauma you've experienced, the more ACEs you experience in youth, the higher negative outcomes you have across the lifespan. It could be health outcomes like obesity, depression, heart disease, cancer. Could be behavioral things like smoking, alcoholism, drug use, and could be other things like economic and social well-being around graduation rate, job, college attendance. But really, this study for the first time named what has been invisible and part of the human experience since the beginning of time. And when we can name it, we can begin to address it or respond to it. And kind of the cycle of trauma that results is that people experience these really hard events. These events cause stress in the body. People find themselves in unsupportive environments, whether that's school, work, anywhere across society. And in these unsupportive environments, the body turns to negative coping behaviors. It's not a conscious choice. The body is doing whatever it can to keep us safe. That could be violence or aggression. That could be depression, anxiety. That could be substance use. Those coping behaviors are met with punishment. And the act of us punishing and isolating people, doing the best they can to manage their trauma in maybe not the most healthy ways, leads to more trauma in of itself. So it turns into this vicious cycle. So the goal is to try to break this cycle. So digging into some of the brain and body science and helping build our understanding of how does the nervous system in our body actually deal with stress. So kind of just a pause for the story behind brain science. I mean, we live in an exciting, pretty incredible and exciting time. There has been more information learned about our brain and our body in the last decade than in all the years of human existence before that. I mean, we are learning new things every year, every month, every week, every day about how our body and brain works and how it responds to stress. Our brain is the most complex known organism in the universe. It's still so deeply a mystery. It takes in such a small amount of energy, but uses such a large amount of energy. I mean, there's so many mysteries to how our brain actually functions and works, but the things we are learning and the things we know are quite illuminating. So our brain is actually made up of three main different areas. And through evolution, these newer areas have evolved. So the oldest and most ancient part of our brain is this survival brain. It's in the back of our head. We share this with reptiles and mammals, all animals. And this it's our survival brain. It controls everything that keeps us alive and breathing and safe, surviving. So our fight or flight response lives here. Processing sensations lives here. Breathing, heart rate, so many things live in this survival part of our brain. It is doing everything subconsciously without us consciously thinking of it. Then there's this emotional part of our brain where we make sense of feelings and memories and attachments and relationships. And then the newest part of our brain, the thing that makes us uniquely human, is our prefrontal cortex. It's our thinking brain. This is all the skills that make us human, our ability to look far into the future or reflect on the past, our ability to make complex plans and carry them out, our ability to imagine and see and imagine and feel things that aren't actually happening in a present moment, our ability to solve problems, impulse control, process language, all of these things live in our prefrontal cortex, our thinking brain. What happens is when we're calm, when our body is in a state of balance, our thinking brain is online. We're able to do all these higher order things. When we experience a threat, the amygdala, this P-shaped sized thing in the back of our head, the body sends a signal to the amygdala that we're not safe. The amygdala is the smoke detector of the brain. It sounds the alarm and it flips our lid. All of a sudden, our thinking brain is offline. And now we're reacting from our survival brain. All the survival brain cares about is get me safe as fast as possible. That's the fight or flight. That's some of those negative coping behaviors. That's kind of the basic brain science that is happening when we get stressed. Our lid gets flipped. So we need to find and build positive coping behaviors that help us get that thinking brain back online and get our body back to a place of calm and balance. And our brain is kind of always in between these two states. Either our brain is online and we're thinking, or our brain is offline and we're literally operating from a place of survival and reaction. And so we find ourselves in one of those two states at all times, and it's a different lens to view ourselves and the people we live and work with. This is where breathing comes in. Our breath is the only part of this complex nervous system that we can consciously control. And our breath signals to the rest of our body that we are safe and that there is not a present threat. So the more we practice specific types of deep breathing, the stronger our nervous system and the stronger our autonomic nervous system gets. So we can literally improve the health of our nervous system and better manage stress through learning specific techniques of breathing. And many cultures have discovered this. And I mean, this really is some ancient wisdom, especially from more Eastern traditions in the Asian continent. But these practices of deep breathing send these signals of safety and calm down our entire body. The last piece of science here is there's this incredible nerve called the vagus nerve. And it is called the wandering nerve because it connects our brain to all these other organs. It comes down our brain stem, wraps around our throat, wraps around the heart, the lungs, the liver, the appendix, the stomach. It goes, I mean, it just is wide reaching, and it's a two-way nerve. Our brain can send information through our vagus nerve to those organs, and our body and organs can send information back up to our brain. Breathing and using biofeedback to get real-time feedback can retrain this vagus nerve to better respond to stressful situations. So this deep breathing is accessing the vagus nerve, and it's calming the vagus nerve and building new habits and pathways. The science that is just incredible is they've discovered this thing called heart rate variability. It's been known for many decades. Initially, it was thought to be almost meaningless, and we have since discovered that this is one of the fundamental markers of our wellness as humans and our well-being. So what heart rate variability is just the space in between our heartbeats. If the space in between your heartbeats is really wide, you have a high heart rate variability. The space between your heartbeats is really low, you have a low heart rate variability. And that space determines our ability to respond to stressful situations and return back to a state of calm or normal. And what they found is that this is actually our heart rate is varying all the time. When you go to the doctor and they put a cuff on and they say you're at 80 beats per minute, it actually on a microsecond level, you're at 70 beats, then you're at 84 beats, then you're at 78, then you're at 82. It's constantly jumping, and they're just telling you an average. And heart rate variability tells us in real terms what is the actual space between a heartbeat, which tells us the overall health of our nervous system. So there's these three circuits in the nervous system. There's an amped up circuit, a shutdown circuit, and a connector calm circuit. Our amped up circuit is kind of when our lid is flipped, but we're anxious, we're hyper, we're ready to respond to a threat. The connecting calm circuit is when we're at peace, we're relaxed, we're able to connect with others. And the shutdown circuit is when we're helpless or exhausted or numb. And it's really normal for our body throughout the day to go in between these circuits. We experience a threat or something stressful, it knocks us into amped up, we come back down, we connect with someone, we hear some hard news and feel kind of stuck and shut down. We're constantly moving between these zones. What is especially tough is when we get stuck and amped up or stuck and shut down. And breathing and having a practice of breathing and deep breathing can actually help our bodies get back into that connect circuit more easily and help us get unstuck when we experience these stressful situations. Big thing here is the only time we can learn is when we're in our connect circuit. The only time we can, do the things that they ask us to do at our job or in school or in all these different places is if we're in our connect circuit. If we're amped up or shut down, all the resources in our body are going to those states to maintain that physical state. No new learning can take place. So sharing a little bit about the solution and what the program looks like. Biofeedback breathing is built in this idea of how do we create supportive environments that allow people the chance to build skills instead of meeting them with punishment or isolation when they're experiencing stress and hard things. And improving our heart rate variability, improving the strength of our nervous system, many things do this. None of these will be very surprising to anyone. Having safe, healthy relationships actually calms our nervous system. Getting quality, good sleep, exercising. When we exercise, it breaks down the stress chemicals in our body. When we eat healthy, it again breaks down stress hormones in our body. Getting access to positive mental health support, counseling, or therapy. All of these things are really helpful. The last one is mindfulness or breathing. The biofeedback program really focuses on this part of the equation, the breathing part of it. Any of these parts of this pie help increase our health and our nervous system. So what biofeedback is it's very simply, it can clip onto your finger, clip onto your ear. It's not invasive, it's not doing anything to you, it's just measuring and telling you what is the state of your body and nervous system. And through charting that, it can show you when you're in an amped up state, the heart rate pattern is very jagged and you can see that you're frustrated. When you're in a calm and connected state, you can see in this green image here, the curves are smooth and you can get real-time feedback about the actual state of your nervous system and body. Big thank you and shout out to Dr. Carmen Rusinello. He is a Vietnam veteran turned PhD who's been working with biofeedback breathing for multiple decades. He has a lab at East Carolina University, close to where we are. I actually was lucky enough to take some graduate classes with him, and he supported the pilots we did at Patillo Middle School, which was the first pilot site where students who had trouble managing the stress in their body were given the opportunity to do this biofeedback breathing program to build skills and improve health. So thank you to Dr. R. Big thing here is biofeedback is training. It's not therapy. We're just training our bodies and training our nervous systems. The groups that currently train with biofeedback include Olympic athletes, astronauts, the military, professional sports players. Every player on the Alabama football team, and they win a national championship, it seems like every other year, they clip on every morning to the biofeedback, and it tells them the state of their nervous system. And if their nervous system isn't doing good, they will actually say it's better for you to take it easier today, get your nervous system back up, and then go really hard the next day when you're rested. So, I mean, they're making real-time decisions about to train hard or not train hard based about the state of your nervous system. Our goal is just to make this technology that is kind of available in these elite spaces, available in more community-based spaces in schools and clinics and community-based programs. The effects of biofeedback, when you do this breathing for 10 or 15 minutes a day for 4 to 6 weeks, it calms your nervous system. The biofeedback leads to increased social emotional skills, which leads to an increased ability to manage stress. Our increased ability to manage stress equals more healing, and more healing can feed back into this positive cycle of doing more breathing and strengthening even further the health of our nervous system. So we're trying to create this virtuous cycle where through doing the breathing, we're building skills, managing stress better, and leading to more healing. So we use the Inner Balance technology from HeartMath, and they sell the devices, and the application is free. Big thank you to HeartMath for just what they've built. They have a company and a nonprofit. And how HeartMath works is they have a sensor that can clip onto your ear, and then the app works on a Chromebook, laptop, computer, or a phone, and it can tell you in real time. It shows you that heart rate pattern, and it tells you the coherence of your nervous system. It says if you're in balance or if you're out of balance. And so the more in balance you are, you're in the green zone. If you're in between, you're in the blue, and if you're not as incoherent as you could be, you're in the red. And you get this real-time feedback that helps you breathe, and it shows you a breathing pattern. The circle gets bigger and smaller, and that breathing pattern, it's a paced breathing. So you follow that paced breathing, very basic, and you just big breath in, big breath out, and that helps calm the nervous system. It's like practicing a musical instrument. The more you do it, the better your nervous system and body gets at it. So if you're interested in having your own biofeedback program, it involves doing an introduction to staff, similar to what you're receiving right now, where you learn about trauma and ACEs and stress and breathing, just so that staff understands why are we doing this and what's the science behind it. Then you have a 4 to 6 week breathing program. The ideal is 2 sessions a day. I mean, again, the more you do this, the better outcomes you're going to see. But at minimum, at least 1 session per day, 10 to 15 minutes for 4 to 6 weeks. And then optionally, if you want to evaluate the impact on the people who are doing your program, we have assessments and evaluation plans that you can use. Very simple, very easy to use, different series of surveys. So just sharing briefly, the first pilot we did was at Patillo Middle School. 12 students who were frequently referred to the office for behavioral challenges were offered the chance to come do biofeedback breathing every morning before their first period class in their own homeroom. And students did 10 to 15 minutes a day, and it showed measurable decreases in their anxiety. Students saw a 57% decrease in the anxiety symptoms they were feeling. 100% of the kids who did it said that it improved their ability to calm down through learning these techniques and doing this deep breathing, and that they wanted to continue the program. We have some awesome testimonials from the students. We also have some testimonials from military veterans who have done biofeedback breathing. We'll link and share these slides so that you can watch those testimonials. We are here to support in any way. Our website is ruralopportunity.org. Please send us an email at ruralopportunity@gmail.com. We are just here to support in any way. We have an implementation guide that you can use. It's broken down step by step, makes it really easy for you to implement this program for yourself, for a group of coworkers you work with, or for clients that you serve. And we just want to see this technology be shared. We don't want it to be restricted. So any way that we can help, please reach out. Don't hesitate to let us know. If you're interested in doing your own program, just an idea of what the timeline could look like, might take a couple weeks, 2 to 4 weeks for you to prepare your staff, do an intro or onboarding, get the appropriate approvals from whatever boss is in your organization. And then the actual program would be 4 to 6 weeks. And then there's an optional evaluation at the end. If you are very serious about doing this program in your organization, there are different roles that you can read more about in the implementation guide, but the main one is a coordinator and implementer. And this is going to be the point person would really champion this program. So maybe that person is you, maybe that person is someone else in your agency, but you want to find like who is the coordinator or implementer who's really going to champion this program and run as the point of contact within your agency. And in conclusion, we just have a big thank you to our funders and sponsors who supported these initial pilots and made this possible. All North Carolina-based foundations. We have the Barnhill Contracting Company, the Barnhill Foundation, Jamie Kirkhan Foundation, Luke Garrison Foundation, Anonymous Trust, and the North Carolina Department of Public Instruction actually supported through a school safety grant to help create the implementation guide that you will get access to. So big thank you to you for your time. Please let us know however we can support you, and hope to talk soon.